You remember back in the day when kids sitcoms would have that one special episode that was generally a two-parter, the kind of episode that wasn't quite a movie but wasn't a regular episode either, and some of them even had guest stars occasionally? A lot of these episodes were just used to stat pad ratings, or in some cases, they'd be paired with a certain sponsor. Or, honestly, sometimes writers just came up with an idea so grand that they can't fit it into a 22-minute episode. Regardless of the reason, if you were anything like me during this era, you were probably always excited to watch these episodes live. And so today, I, Mr. Nostalgia, decided that I would temporarily try to bring back that excitement to the best of my ability and review some of Nick's most iconic sitcom specials. 5 shows, 5 episodes, 1 video. Let's do this.
Takes on Shelby Marx in the ultimate smackdown. Let's see how the contenders are warming up.
I train 7 days a week. I take down fighters twice my size. You know what I think about Curly Shay? That is so cute with the sting in my mouth.
We're doomed. iFight Shelby Marx.
We're going down, Shay!
The brand new movie premieres tonight at 8, only on Nick.
Alright, trying to get that viewer retention level up on my channel, so we might as well start off with arguably the most iconic Nick sitcom of all time. iFight Shelby Marx is one of the many hour-long iCarly specials. With iCarly being such a big show, nearly off-rip, it makes sense that they give the show so many opportunities to have these event-type episodes. I knew I definitely wanted to cover one of the earlier specials of the series, because I felt like watching something during the more classic iCarly era, before Gibby was a main character and Freddie wasn't with Sam, or Carly for that matter, which really only left me with 2 options. And considering I cannot stand I Date a Bad Boy, really I only had one: iFight Shelby Marx. This episode premiered on August 8th, 2009, and I remember this one, like all the other specials, being a really big deal. For this special specifically, for starters, they'd always run ads for it every single commercial break around the time that it was airing. And then on top of that, they had this themed programming block called Fight Week, where they'd air some of the more violent episodes of iCarly, plus SpongeBob, and oddly enough, Malcolm in the Middle. Now mind you, they had whole Marvel cartoons airing on the network back then. You'd think they would have used one of those too. And then also, Nick did that thing that they did a lot back then, and still do it now actually, where they changed the little screen bug at the bottom to something oriented around the event, even having a little countdown clock at the bottom. Back when DVRs weren't mainstream and watching TV live actually mattered. But alright, to talk about the actual episode, the plot centers around Freddie and Sam's excitement and Carly's discovery of the 15-year-old MMA fighter Shelby Marx, who is of course played by Victoria Justice. During a live stream, the gang gives her a shout out since they saw her match the night prior and were really impressed. As a joke, Carly says that she would beat Shelby in a fight with ease, but when the clip gets chopped and screwed by a fan online, making it seem like she was being serious, Freddie fears that people, even potentially Shelby, might take this seriously.
Shelby would destroy that twig.
Twig?
I'm not a twig, and I'm getting curvier every day.
I know.
This dude Freddie a weirdo. And he's a weirdo throughout this entire episode too, by the way.
She can kick me in the face any day.
Shelby Marx's foot is too good for your face.
I'm sorry.
The irony of this all is that Shelby does actually pull up to the Shay apartment. Not to hurt Carly, but to ask if she'd be interested in doing an exhibition match that would not only be beneficial for her career, but also the iCarly web show. And all the money would go to charity. Despite this sounding like a good idea, Carly is hesitant to accept due to her fearing the possibility of Shelby actually hurting her. After seeing a demonstration on how Shelby plans on pulling her punches and kicks, being reassured that this is just a pretend fight for ratings, and getting the okay from Spencer, she agrees. Advertising and marketing for the fight starts to spread like wildfire, all leading up to the official press interview for both girls. What Shelby doesn't know is that Sam tells Carly multiple times that it would be a good idea if she trash talked her while giving her an interview to make everything seem more legit and get people psyched up for the fight. Even while at the podium, she's a little unsure on if she really wants to trash talk or not. But after seeing how persistent Sam is, she gives it a whirl.
Well, you call Shelby a great fighter, but I say she's just a
Whoa, Carly Shay, you kiss your mother with that mouth? wherever she is. Even though it's pretty obvious that Carly isn't being genuine here, Shelby takes offense to it anyway. It also doesn't help that Sam gets on the podium to speak her mind as well, and as you could imagine, escalates the situation.
Sit down, Shelby. No one wants to hear you run your mouth. Are you kidding me?
Don't you talk to my granddaughter like that.
Sit down, old lady.
Back-to-back ooh sound effects is crazy, I'm not gonna lie. A little scuffle breaks out between the two teams, which leads to Carly and Shelby's grandma, who was recently let out the hospital, falling off the stage and right smack onto the ground. Looks like Grandma Marx and the hospital staff are about to run it back. Shelby takes all this the wrong way and believes Carly is the one that tackled her grandmother on purpose. So now she's gonna scrap the whole exhibition match and go full Tori Nichols on her. Can you tell? I just finished binge watching Cobra Kai. I remember when I watched this episode a few years back and was always annoyed at how Sam never apologized to Carly for what she did. She took the situation from 0 to 100 real quick, single-handedly, and when Carly calls her out for it, she kind of just laughs at her use of the word ruckus. She's a horrible friend, bruh. Amidst all the backlash she's receiving for the altercation involving Grandma Marx, Carly decides to cancel the fight. But then she faces backlash again for canceling the fight, especially since all the money was going to go to charity.
I was afraid that Shelby would hurt me, so I canceled because to make sure that there's nothing wrong with chickening out once in a while.
Just ask J. Cole. Eventually, Carly just can't take all the hate online she's getting for not only just a grandma thing, but also backing out of the fight. So she decides to at least try to talk things out with Shelby and explain what really happened. And this actually does work. That isn't until Neville hears about this, and considering he still has beef with the iCarly crew, specifically Carly, he decides to take matters into his own hands to make sure Carly gets the whooping that he thinks she deserves. He splices up some older iCarly segments to create an audio file that gives off the illusion Carly purposely pushed her grandma off the podium. He then presents it to Shelby, who doesn't take this lightly. Now she, once again, wants to hurt Carly for real. I know it's just a show, but like, I wouldn't assume even the worst person in the world is trying to tackle my grandma, you know? Like, I get now she has proof of it, at least from her perspective, but like, you know what I mean? That's just a little crazy. It's whatevs though. This episode is actually pretty solid, so I'll allow it. The night the fight comes around, Carly is still assuming everything is sweet, but once she gets in the ring, she quickly realizes that it's not. Feeling confused and scared, she has no other choice but to hold on to Shelby's leg for the rest of the fight so she doesn't get hurt. She manages to run out the clock, and once the buzzer sounds, immediately runs out screaming, fearing for her life. Eventually though, the gang is able to once again clear it up with Shelby that she didn't mean to push her grandmother. It also helps that once Shelby describes the kid who showed her the video that implies otherwise, they're able to figure out that it's Neville. And so the girls decide to pay him a little visit, cornering him while in the ring. And we never really do find out what happened exactly, but considering the scream that Neville let out, maybe it's for the best. The episode wraps up pretty well with Shelby being invited onto the iCarly web show so they can do whatever this is, I guess. As stated before, iFight Shelby Marx is one of the many event episodes of iCarly, and honestly, it's probably the best one. A lot of these other specials bite off more than they can chew, or in the case of I Did a Bad Boy, have no business being a two-parter, but this one earns its runtime in my opinion. They did a good job of making this feel like an actual event. Obviously, we knew that Carly wasn't actually going to be throwing hands with anyone, but even without that, the episode is filled with moments throughout it that makes it a special episode of iCarly. There also wasn't a lot of filler in this episode, which I really appreciate. There is somewhat of a B-plot with Spencer trying out this medication that, as a result, makes him have a whole bunch of side effects. And you could tell this was just made to give his character something to do because there's not really a payoff for it. It just kind of exists and has nothing to do with the actual plot. This episode is also another example of the show being ahead of its time because social media influencers organizing fights has become a super common thing nowadays. So if there's one thing I'll give iCarly, it's that. It really did kind of predict the streaming world. Don't get me wrong though. I think this totally could have been a standard 20-minute episode, and I have a theory that the only reason why it wasn't is because of who was playing Shelby Marx. This came at a time where Nick was desperately trying to push Victoria Justice to be the next big thing, even including her in promos for the network before she had her own show. Dan, likely aware of the fact that he was going to make Victorious, probably wrote this episode to be an hour-long special, just so people who maybe didn't watch Zoe 101 could get reintroduced to her. But even with this being the case, they definitely did a good job at making this at least feel like something I should be watching, or child me should be watching at least. And considering this episode premiered to nearly 8 million viewers, clearly all of the marketing was worth it. Hey, real quick, I wanted to add that one of the sponsors for this episode was Glenn Martin DDS, and they showed a sneak peek of the series during a commercial break, just in case you were wondering when exactly this episode came out.
Tonight,
Hello, darlings.
it's 7 Secrets with Victoria Justice, and you've never seen her
I had to get that out.
like this.
I'm very goofy. I don't take myself seriously.
Get ready to find out the secrets Victoria's never told anyone.
I had this Lance Bass ring because I love Lance Bass.
Until now. 7 Secrets with Victoria Justice. The brand new special premieres tonight at 9.
You're not gonna believe it. Freak out.
Right after Freak the Freak Out. Only on Nick.
Freak the Freak Out premiered on Nickelodeon on November 22nd, 2010. The special aired as part of what Nick called a weekend with Victoria's, which, as you could guess, aired on Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of the event was centered around not only the special, but also the song that was made for it. Or perhaps, should I say the special that was made for the song, since that's probably more likely. During commercial breaks, we see the cast of the show hanging out and giving interviews and whatnot. Nick did this a lot back then, and it all led up to the special and the premiere of the song's music video. Speaking of which, the special, which might I add started off with the new extended version of the intro to really hammer home the idea of this being an event, centers around a couple of things. The B plot is about Tori, who has to take care of Trina after she gets her wisdom teeth removed, thanks to her parents being out of town. Fun fact, I actually got mine out not too long ago, and during the recovery process, I actually did attempt to record stuff for my channel, including the intro to my Bucket and Skinner video. No one ever really pointed it out though, so I guess it's not that noticeable, though I do still think if you go back and watch the beginning of that video, you can kinda hear it. This unfortunate event means that Tori can't really do anything this weekend, which is even more upsetting when she hears that the rest of the Hollywood Arts gang is going to this place called Karaoke Dokie to compete in some singing competitions.
Can Rex and I come sing too?
Sure.
I told you, I got the Northridge girls.
They can come watch.
No, man. Then they're gonna want us to buy them food and beverages.
So?
They're from Northridge. I don't want to spend money on them.
Nice little detail that Matt Bennett actually ever so slightly moves his lips when speaking as Rex.
Okay, how about Robbie and Rex, huh? One of the most amazing ventriloquist acts I've ever seen.
Ventriloquist? What's he talking about?
Oh, that's concerning. Things start to heat up when these two girls named Tara and Haley start flirting with Andre and Beck. And as it turns out, these girls are also the next singers to perform. They sing a song that, if I didn't mention was from iCarly, I'd get a million comments telling me I forgot to mention this song was from iCarly. So, yeah, this song is from The Troop. And yeah, these girls aren't very good, but at least they're still better than when Austin Butler was on iCarly. Y'all remember that episode? Jade, rightfully so, is feeling really confident that her and Kat can beat those two girls. And considering the flirting that went on earlier, there's a little bit of an extra incentive to beat them. But after performing a song that I can't play due to copyright, but is legitimately really good, the girls still end up losing.
Just sit down.
I'll sit you down.
Andre has some of the best reactions on this show, bruh. It's funny how everyone kind of universally agrees that he's by far the best character. As it turns out though, there's a hint of nepotism going on in the competition, as the owner of the club it's being held in is one of the girls' father.
Wait, why would you call him dad unless... I bet he's her father!
Season 1 cast has some pretty good lines too, until they of course decided to turn her into On Deck London Tipton. Everyone starts booing the karaoke place and claiming that this competition was fixed, kind of like NBA fans during the 2002 Western Conference Finals. The next day, the gang visits Tori at her house to bring her some stuff to cheer her up. I sure hope Beck just has multiple of that same shirt, because he just wore it the night prior. The girls specifically explain to her the situation at hand and tell her that they have a plan to take them down. A plan that involves leaving the boys home to take care of Trina and taking their car keys so they can't leave. Man, that's evil. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Not even this dude on Twitter. I'm just playing. Anyway, Jade and Kat confront Tara and Haley and tell them that if they're so good at singing, then they shouldn't mind a little competition that, instead of being judged by the club owner, is actually judged by the audience. And they even get to choose their competition. The girls make the decision process off of looks, and what do you know, they choose Tori, who is actually in disguise. What's crazy is there actually could have been someone there that looked worse than her, low-key. They must have had a lot of confidence that the girls would choose Tori, who was going by the name Louise Nordhoff. And the song that Tori, or Louise, chooses to sing is Freak the Freak Out, which I guess in the Victorious world is a real song made by a different artist. But you'll never be able to guess that because the way Tori is singing it, it's like she owns it. Little by little, she starts showing her true self and the crowd starts to get amazed. Well, some of the crowd at least. I mean, these girls don't seem too thrilled. After a performance, the owner of the club gets on stage to get the audience to vote on who won.
Okay, all those for Haley and Tara!
Yeah, Luis won. It's not even close. And because of that, as part of the original agreement, now the girls have to babysit a girl that Tori, Jade, and Kat know. But they didn't reveal to them at the time that the girl wasn't some kid, and instead was actually a teenage girl who had her wisdom teeth extracted. And while that's happening, the girls take the boys back to Karaoke Doki to see Psychowitz put on an interesting performance. What is this show sometimes, man? I'm not the biggest Victorious fan in the world, admittedly, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't really enjoy this episode. Generally, I have a lot of complaints about Victorious, especially when it comes to its characters, but for once, I don't have many things to say. The best thing about this episode is how it handled the A and B plots. There are other episodes in this video, True Jackson, that have some plots that have nothing to do with the main story, nor do they have any significant payoff or justification for being included aside from padding the time. In this one though, that really isn't the case. Like, yeah, there is a random Sinjin B plot involving the Northridge girls, but it only really gets a couple scenes of attention and isn't anything major. No, the A and B plots in this episode, aka everything happening at Karaoke Doki and then everything happening with Trina at the house, both almost got equal screen time because they're equally as important. You really couldn't have one without the other. It's not like they had some random disattached B plot that could have been used in any episode. Despite being very different, the B plot was actually just setting up the resolution of the A plot the whole time. And yeah, obviously the A plot was far more entertaining, but I think having the B plot pay off in the end makes it worth sitting through. Because of that, the episode didn't feel all that long. It was almost always entertaining. There wasn't really ever a moment that was like, oh, not this again. Nah, the whole thing really was pretty fun. One does wonder why they chose this specific story to turn into an hour-long episode, and well, I think it's pretty obvious this was made to hard launch the Freak the Freak Out song, as Nickelodeon probably expected it to be big. And you know what? It worked, because the song actually charted at number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it the highest charting song from the show, and if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the second highest charting song to come from Nickelodeon in general, behind About You Now by Miranda Cosgrove. And so, speaking of Freak to Freak Out, I will say it is a banger, probably one of the better Victoria Justice songs from this era. But you know what I find really interesting? Whenever there is a song that exists as an actual song in the world of shows like iCarly and Victorious, you ever notice how much effort is put into making it sound like a song that actually exists? Like, My World by Ginger Fox sounds like a song I'd hear by Kesha, and that Joke Is On You song from iCarly sounds like something I'd hear on the radio as well. But then when it actually comes to making songs for their artists to put out, Nickelodeon tends to always stay in that same realm of, well, Nickelodeon sounding music. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It works, obviously, and also a lot of it had to be advertised towards children, but it is kind of funny. Either way, Freak to Freak Out is a good song that is attached to an even better episode. Now, on to the next show.
Here's what's happening now at nick.com/BTR. We've got your one stop for everything Big Time Rush. Hear the music, including their newest songs. Get daily updates straight from the guys. Pick up all new Big Time stuff for your avatar and more. It's all happening right now at nick.com/BTR.
I'm gonna be real, Big Time Beach Party probably would have been the episode I would have discussed in this video had I not already reviewed it in a previous one. Go check that out, by the way. But since I did talk about that one already and still wanted to have some sort of Big Time Rush representation in this video, I decided to instead review another special, this time being a Big Time Concert, aka the Season 1 finale. Premiering on August 20th, 2010, the special centers around the band celebrating not only their first CD being completed, but also the announcement of their first tour. They start daydreaming over what it would be like, and we see them envisioning themselves playing in Times Square. What's interesting though is that this footage is actually taken from a real BTR concert that they really had in Times Square. Nickelodeon even aired a special about it. This is one of the things about this show that I always thought was clever, how they'd sometimes blur the lines between the show and the band in real life. There was another episode that did something similar. Matter of fact, it was the first episode of Season 3. Plus, seeing the actual Times Square footage, albeit only appearing in spurts, is just visually so much better than what most of the other Nick shows have to offer, since a lot of them go for the multi-camera style of sitcom. Even though the boys are very excited for this opportunity, it doesn't come without its baggage. in this case being the sheer amount of intense training that they have to do to get ready for their tour. Gustavo hires not only a professional dancer to help them out with their moves on stage, but also another teen pop star, Dax Sivan, to teach them how to interact with fans while performing, even giving the boys cones so they know how to operate without always turning their heads and seeing their surroundings. Fun fact, this dude playing Dak is actually the original guy they had playing Kendall's character before they went with, well, Kendall. As far as their training goes, as you can imagine, things do not start off too hot, but after staying persistent, they slowly start to get the hang of things. Another thing I really like about the show is how they portrayed the band's rise to fame. Some kids shows will do the whole overnight sensation thing, and I feel like that's really lazy. Now this show had them slowly becoming famous over time, with their rise to the top being the entire premise of season 1, and honestly even a bit of season 2. There are even little things in this episode that connected to the show's pilot, a few of which we'll talk about a little later, but one of the main ones being how the whole thing really started with James, and it's his drive to finally accomplish what he wants that pushes the whole band to really lock in on the whole learning how to perform thing. Unfortunately for them though, things take a shocking turn when Arthur Griffin, the CEO of Rock Records, comes in and announces that the CD, tour, and the band as a whole have been cancelled, mainly due to the accounting department believing that the band is just too risky financially. Man, imagine putting all that work into something just for it to be cancelled thanks to the higher-ups deeming it financially hazardous. You'd have thought the band was owned by WB or something. Instead, they are replacing the band with audio children's books since they're a lot cheaper to make and bring in a solid amount of money. Oh yeah, also they're going to be read by Ed Begley Jr. And shout out Dr. Linkletter. Unfortunately for the boys, this means that they just have to go home since they are no longer able to stay at the Palm Woods. And while 3 of them have decided that it's just best to move on, James is not only in denial, but also hell-bent on getting what he's wanted his entire life. A chance at the big time. Kendall brings up a good point though. As great as the whole boy band opportunity was for them, it wasn't always something they wanted to do. For example, he wanted to be a hockey player, Logan wanted to be a doctor, and Carlos
To be hit by a radioactive meteor and fight crime as Meteor Man.
Already taken.
But you can't use Meteor Man. It was a movie in the 90s.
No, never mind. So now that things are back to normal, they might as well try to live out their original dreams. Meanwhile, Rock Records rival Hawk, played by legendary voice actor Phil Lamar, who I've actually met before, believe it or not, has his own plan. See, he has this whole spat that's been going on for a while with Gustavo, where they're always trying to one-up each other. And so because of that, after hearing about the BTR news, he decides that in order to finally have something over him, he would take one of the members from the band and give them their own solo career. And after mulling it over, he lands on James. Meanwhile, Kendall gets a surprise visit from Gustavo, who claims that he has a plan to bring back the band. Though earlier it was revealed that the only way to buy back the rights of the band is by putting more or less his entire net worth into it, including his mansion. Such a choice is something he's likely only making because of the bond he's formed with the boys over the past 20 episodes or so. A bond that at this point has become so strong that he even lets them know about it, which is surprising because he's not into that mushy stuff. Y'all know how he is. But it's a good thing he did say this because it's this prep talk that convinces the boys to take one more shot at the big time. All they have to do is find James. But when they swing by his house to see him, his dad, who I feel like rarely ever gets brought up in this show, says that a producer named Hawk swung by earlier to take him back to LA, which is something Gustavo does not take very lightly. So now after returning back to LA, the goal is to find James, start the concert training back up, and to kick off their first show so that everything else will fall into place, including their CD and the rest of their tour. They get a tip that he's actually back at the Palmwood, staying in apartment 2J, aka their old apartment, which is now totally decked out. There's even a sushi chef. But unfortunately, their pitch to get James back in the band doesn't go so well, as Hawk has promised him a pretty lucrative solo deal. So now their only choice is to find a replacement for him. They start holding auditions at Rock Records and aren't too successful. Everyone they've seen so far is lacking that talent that James has, and so the gang is pretty deflated. That is until a dude named Skippy Hickenlooper comes in and gives a flawless performance, even down to the backflip. Name aside, they've pretty much decided that he's got what it takes to be the newest member of Big Time Rush. That is until, well, this happens.
I must now tell my Dark Overlord, Zorblock. Oh, Zorblock, the time of prophecy is upon us. Bleep, 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 bleep. Maybe we can't replace James.
Might be one of the funniest scenes from the show, honestly. Thanks to the failed auditions, they've basically decided to just let Big Time Rush remain a trio. After all, that does happen to bands all the time. Only thing is, now that they're down a member, their chemistry has kind of been thrown off. This causes Gustavo to crash out like always, which prompts the boys in response to do a little trolling. But in the midst of their performance of the Turd song, they get a little visit from an old friend. He's such a tryhard. Welcome back though, James. The boys celebrate the final piece of the puzzle being added to the band. You see, earlier we saw that thanks to all the alterations they're making to his image, both physically and metaphorically, James realized that Hawk isn't all he's made out to be. And even if it means missing out on a few M's, there's no place he'd rather be than with his best friends and bandmates. With the four of them back together, they all hatch a few plans to get the word out that their first ever concert is still a go. Some of them being pretty genius, might I add. Setup for the concert begins, and the boys are pointed towards their dressing room. But as it turns out, this is all just a trap to lure the boys into the sharp claws of Hawk. Or talons, I guess. Hawk ties them all up, and I'm not quite sure how. Like, you're telling me 40-year-old Phil Lamar was able to tie up James, for example? Come on, man. The height and size difference alone should have been enough for him to overpower him. Anyway, with 20 minutes left, Gustavo starts freaking out over the boys still not being out there. But Kelly, in her own way, tries to get him to stay calm. Back at the lair, the boys are desperate for a way out of the trap they're in. But Carlos, who has been trying all episode to become a superhero, finally gets his moment to shine as one, though not necessarily in the way he intended. I love when random but persistent side gags get satisfying payoffs. After untying everyone else, Carlos and the guys try to make their way to the concert on foot. But fortunately for them, James' old butler from when he was with Hawk Records is able to scoop them up and take them to their destination. Talk about good timing. Every good butler is there when you need him, even Jimmy Butler. Excluding this last playoff run, I guess. Taking only 9 shots in a playoff game without Steph Curry is kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, Sebastian, which is the butler's name, tries his best to get the boys there on time. But as the clock ticks, Hawk's confidence in his plan grows. So much so that he's showboating in front of Gustavo. With people starting to leave, Gustavo's entire career is flashing before his eyes. One of the constant things brought up in this episode is how the boys never let him down, and even though he's aware of their track record, he wonders if this is where their streak ends. Luckily, he doesn't have to worry about that for very long.
This is the part where you faint.
Hey, sorry we're late, Gustavo.
Yeah, we got a little tied up.
I know a lot of people give the show flack for being corny with the sound effects or more or less playing out like a live action cartoon, but when the writers and directors really lock in, they know how to not only make good stories, but make really gratifying moments that elevate them. No pun intended, I guess. The boys get up on stage and perform their hit song, Famous, which, although totally fits the theme of the episode, wasn't actually on the original release of the album they're supposed to be promoting, which is kind of funny. Yeah, what? I have most of the album added to my like songs playlist. What you gonna do about it? There's a lot to, I don't want to say unpack about the scene, but there is a lot to appreciate in my opinion. For starters, they do this thing where while they're performing, they go back and forth to the real life performance of them playing in Times Square, which is such a sick detail, I had no choice but to smile when I saw it. Don't get me wrong, when I talk about this or that scene from a few minutes ago where the boys literally don't let Gustavo down, I'm not saying that these are some genius or groundbreaking writing details, because they're not. What I am saying though is that as someone that's watched an insane amount of children's live action television for the past, well, 20 something years really, but specifically for my channel about 3 years, I've seen a lot of bland, cookie cutter, and sometimes straight up bad stuff. So when I see details like the ones mentioned previously, I appreciate them because, yeah, most kids sitcoms just aren't written this way. Like, I'm sorry, I know I'm yapping, but this is really cool. The episode ending this way, after 40 minutes of build-up, is just so satisfying. This episode played out like a whole movie, bruh. And to make this episode even better, remember what I said about how this one kind of ties into the pilot? And the pilot episode of the show starts off with the boys getting chased by a bunch of girls, which was kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to predict where they'd end up. Matter of fact, in this scene, James literally says, "This is what it's going to be like when we're famous." 20 episodes later, at the season finale, this one ends just like the pilot, but this time being chased for the reason that they actually want to be chased by girls, not some juvenile prank. Season finales mirror what happens in the pilot all the time. Rarely does it ever happen in shows like this though, and that's what makes it cool. Overall though, this episode is really good and 100% worthy of its runtime. Not only was there enough content to fill everything up, but the episode itself felt grand. This episode represents everything I like about BTR. Likeable and good-hearted characters, a positive atmosphere, tight writing, and fire music. This is not only probably the best episode of the series, but also, dare I say, one of the best Nick sitcom episodes ever? Like, there's really not much bad about it. I will say this episode being the season finale did kind of give it something extra over the other episodes, if that makes sense. Like it was trying to accomplish more than the average 2-part special. So in a way, it was kind of cheating to put it up against these other ones, but whatever, it's my channel, and I really like this episode. Now on to the next one.
Tonight, in a brand new True Jackson movie.
Who's that?
True's got her eye
I'm True.
Nice to meet you.
on a mystery guy.
What does he like to do? I have no idea. What are his hobbies? Didn't say. What's his last name? Didn't come up. Oh my gosh, you two are made for each other.
But she's about to find out
I can't really tell you.
he's a secret superstar.
He's a rapper in disguise.
Can True handle dating a star?
Please, I'm in control.
Hi, Justin! Flirting with Fame. Don't miss the brand new True Jackson movie. Tonight at 8:30, only on Nick.
True Jackson VP's Flirting with Fame premiered on Nickelodeon on November 21st, 2009. True Jackson wasn't really known for having a lot of 2-part specials or TV movies, whatever you want to call them, but for whatever reason, this one always stuck out to me. Actually, that's cap. I know exactly why it stuck out to me. My guy, Everybody Hates Chris, was in this episode, man. Everybody Hates Chris to this day remains one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It's in my top 5, comfortably. And that's all I'm going to say about the show, because if I keep talking about it, this entire video is going to turn into an Everybody Hates Chris review. This episode mainly centers around... Actually, wait, hold on. I got to play something first. Say it, say it.
True Jackson VP was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
There we go. Anyway, the episode mainly centers around True, who has spotted a new kid in her class named Justin, and almost immediately develops a crush on him. However, thanks to their pretty limited interactions, True doesn't believe that it would be a good idea to ask him out. Lulu, though, is extremely confident that if she did, he'd say yes. Matter of fact, she's so confident that if he says no, she promises to kiss a pigeon. Which is like a very oddly specific thing to say. I honestly think she's just looking for an excuse to kiss a pigeon. Well, regardless, the next day at school, True strikes up another conversation with him in an attempt to get to know him better. And without missing a beat, actually asks him out on a date. And again, without missing a beat, he says yes. The only issue is, though, another new and rather mysterious student who arrived the same day as him gives Justin a look when he agrees, prompting him to instead backtrack and turn her down. Later, though, he does swing by Matt's style to tell True that he does actually like her, but he reveals there's one thing preventing him from dating her. Yeah, he's dating Tasha. How is he gonna forget that? No, but jokes aside, he explains that the girl who told him no earlier is actually his bodyguard. And the reason why he has a bodyguard is because he has a rather important job.
Well, what's your job?
I'll give you a hint. To be or not to be, boy.
Alright, bro, you got it. No, but seriously, he is Lil Shakespeare, the rapper who I guess raps Shakespeare. Isn't that basically Hamilton? I don't really know anything about Hamilton. Maybe I'm wrong. The play, that is. I got love for all the other Hamiltons of the world. Rip Hamilton, Hamilton for Maggie and the Ferocious Beast. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Nah, this whole thing he just did would have been hilarious if True just like never got the reference. Bro would just be standing there looking silly. Anyway, it's kind of a Hannah Montana situation where he wears fake dreads and a gold tooth to hide his real identity so he can live a normal life. After proving to her that he really is Little Shakespeare, though, he explains that he's attending their school to get an education, which, I don't know, doesn't really make sense to me. He raps about Shakespeare, so he says he wants to learn more about him, but I feel like you don't need to attend a public school in order to do that. He's presumably a millionaire, or at least he's signed to a big record company, so like they can't just buy him a bunch of books so he can brush up on his reading material. And then also, considering he's likely always on the move, touring and giving interviews and whatnot, would it not make sense for him to just be homeschooled? And like, to the credit of the writers, they do actually say he was homeschooled by his mom earlier in the episode. But like, if she wasn't good enough for him, logically, I think it just makes sense for his label to hire an actual teacher. It's a lot safer that way. He then adds that his bodyguard, aka Kyla, is a nice girl. That is, as long as you don't touch her.
I'm guessing somebody touched Kyla.
You're watching the world premiere of the brand new True Jackson movie, Flirting with Fame. We'll be right back. Now back to the world premiere of the brand new True Jackson movie, Flirting with Fame, right here on Nick.
Things take a bit of a sad turn though, when True finds out, through Kyla, that Justin is actually leaving to go on tour soon, and she should probably take things a lot slower with him. Because of this news and the fact that Justin didn't tell her himself, she's pretty upset and even gives him the cold shoulder. Justin says that he wanted to tell her, he just didn't quite know how, considering how much he liked her. And True, feeling hurt by all of this, says that now he doesn't have to worry about it. But see, Justin, man, he not going out without a fight. He wants True to know just how much he likes her. Unlike another Justin out there. No, but seriously, to not only apologize for what he did, but also show his appreciation towards her, Justin decides to rent out the school cafeteria to create a special afternoon. An afternoon involving twinkly lights, pineapple juice, and musical entertainment. Now you'd think this would imply that Justin himself will be providing such entertainment. But nah. He seemingly hired someone else to take care of that.
And now for your dining pleasure, Natasha Bedingfield.
You said what now?
True Jackson.
You win, young fella! You win! Superman!
Natasha Bedingfield pull is crazy, bro. Are you kidding me? Man, she's... Anyway, she performs one of her songs called These Words, which is an absolute banger, and should have had the same success as Unwritten and Pocket Full of Sunshine. Hey, what is it with artists and not performing their most popular songs when they're on sitcoms? They had Sean Kingston on Sweet Life and had him talking about some dumb love. Like, man, if you don't play Beautiful Girls or something, actually, probably not. I can't be talking about killing yourself on Disney Channel. That'd be crazy. But Fire Burning, yeah, that's fair game. What are the lyrics of that one? Shawty got that super thick. All right, never mind. Anyway, yeah, she kills it because she's Natasha Bedingfield, and things actually seem to be looking up for the couple. Justin says that he has a whole lot of time before he has to go on tours, so he plans on spending it with...
I gotta go.
Oh my gosh. All this dude does is fumble, bruh. Trying to be Mark Sanchez so bad. Justin says that he's been called in to be a last-minute fill-in at a concert in Europe, and that he has to go. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, you do have a choice. And you just made it. Bye, Justin.
Man, you know I've just been waiting to use that one. There is one interesting thing that happens at the end of this episode, though, where True says goodbye to Kyla and says that she really thought Justin was the one, especially after he sent her flowers, as we see earlier in the episode. But Kyla says that Justin didn't actually send her those flowers. The only thing on the note was that it was signed J, and naturally, True just assumed it was Justin. But the thing is, there is actually another character in the show whose name starts with a J. This dude, Jimmy, played by Robbie Amell. And throughout this episode, he's attempted to talk to True and even make plans with her a couple times, but True, being in a somewhat relationship with Justin, didn't really think anything of it. After all, they are friends. But later in the episode, it's revealed that Justin actually turned down a whole internship so he can stay in New York, mainly so he can remain close to True. And look, all of that is fine and dandy and all, you know? But, just a little question, like, to the audience. Is Jimmy not a grown man? Like, I'm just wondering, because this is the main ship of True Jackson VP, and eventually they do become a couple. But the one thing that, at least from what I can tell, never gets acknowledged is this dude's age. True is obviously in high school. I'm positive they say she's 15, at least when the show starts. But we never actually see Jimmy in school from what I know. He's working almost all the time. In real life, there is a 5-year age gap between Robbie Amell and Keke Palmer. The show started filming in 2008, which would have made Keke 15 and Robbie 20. Now granted, actor age isn't always indicative of how old the actual character is. But like, am I really supposed to buy that these characters are close enough in age to the point where a relationship between them isn't weird? They both look their ages, bro. Like, why did they do this? They could have gotten any dude to play this role. Come on, man. Got this grown man crushing on high school girls. Jerry Seinfeld much? Good grief. Regardless, while I don't think this was a bad episode, there was really no need for it to be an hour long, including commercials. The plot is easily something they could have done in 22 minutes or so. The only reason why it's longer, and one of the reasons why it's likely my least favorite episode, is because there's a bunch of other stuff going on, like a bunch, to the point where like, it honestly feels like there's enough for 2 different episodes. Like, I mean, 2 completely different episodes that have nothing to do with each other. While the True and Justin plot is going on, we also have to deal with Ryan and Jimmy getting jobs at the airport, Jimmy becoming a pilot, Mad Style trying to improve their casual clothes catalog, and Ryan and Lulu having to watch their respective love interests constantly pair up with each other for some school assignment or whatever. For an episode that's supposed to be a special, this sure doesn't feel like one. If you trim all that stuff out and focus on maybe 2 of those plots, that's a normal episode. I'm not sure why this was the story they went with for a 2-parter. Very odd choice. It's also obvious that this episode was only made to jumpstart this Jimmy and True relationship. I don't remember the timeline of how things happened after this, and I'm not going to research it because this isn't a True Jackson video, but yeah. The main plot itself wasn't bad, though it's definitely the least grand out of all the ones here. It kind of gets carried by the 2 main actors in it, who by the way, are killing it nowadays. It's kind of funny watching this episode now, knowing how well the 2 of them are doing currently, both in their respective fields. Aside from that though, the special isn't very special, to be honest. It's pretty mid. I got a couple fun facts before we move on to the next episode though. 1, this episode when it aired was sponsored by Live Dolls, in case any of you were wondering. And 2, since you'll always be in my comments like, I can't believe you didn't mention that this actor is from insert show or movie name here. I'm just gonna say it right now and save you a click. Yes, Tyler James Williams was in fact in Let It Shine. You don't have to comment it. I know, I just didn't mention it because there was no need to, and I'm pretty sure everyone already knows that. Alright, we're good. Thank you for being here. Now let's talk about some Kenan and Kel.
Hey everyone, Kel and I've got our very own show on Nickelodeon. It's called Kenan and Kel. We hope you'll join the millions of kids that'll be out there watching. Millions? Yeah. They'll be tuning in all across America to see us, that's you and me, on our show on Snick. See, all eyes will be focused directly on us, right? I don't feel so good. What? Kel?
Don't miss the premiere of Kenan and Kel starting October 12th, only on Snick.
1 million!
Every sitcom has that one vacation episode, and even more so, it seems like every sitcom involving a duo has a Hollywood episode. Drake and Josh, Zach and Cody, Zeke and Luther. That's my first Zeke and Luther reference on this channel in a bit. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise to you that Kenan and Kel has an episode called Here It Goes to Hollywood. The 2-part special premiered on September 25th, 1999, in the series' last season. But before we get into this episode, can we just acknowledge how hard the Kenan and Kel theme song goes? Just a straight up banger, bro. I'd totally bump this unironically in my car if it was longer. I'm telling you, bro, 90s Nick just had a different type of aura. They had Coolio doing the Kenan and Kel theme song, TLC doing the All That theme song. Like, they just couldn't be matched back then, bruh. Swag through the roof. Now in 2025, we got Ice Spice doing a song for the new SpongeBob movie. Get that out of here. The Rockmore family are all gathered around the living room in an attempt to win one of the type of contests where the first person to call in and answer the question correctly gets to win a trip to anywhere in the world. They're successfully able to call in, but are stumped by the question they have to answer, which is, who invented string cheese? But of course, aside from his name, most of the time at least, that is the one thing that Kel actually knows. So he grabs a phone and answers it, and no, I googled it, his answer isn't the actual answer. Kel, like Russell Westbrook, is someone you just gotta live and die by though. Within 1 minute of game time, he'll have to do something incredibly smart to help you on the court, but then balance it out by airballing a layup. And yeah, Kel definitely airballed here. Kel, with the phone still in his hand, says Amsterdam Europe for the Orange Soda Fest. They all try to grab the phone from him, but it's too late. It's already locked in. The Rockmores, plus Kel, are going to Amsterdam Europe. Or are they? See, thanks to a little mishap at the TSA line involving Kel, for whatever reason just casually carrying metal around, the boys are not only late for their flight, but don't actually see which gate Kenan's parents go into. So Kel, for whatever reason, just calls out, "It's this one!" and Kenan, for whatever reason, just believes him. But what they don't know is that that's actually the wrong gate. Yeah, that's how you know this episode was made before 9/11, because this would never happen nowadays. I do a lot of traveling every year to go back to my hometown, and the amount of security measures I have to go through are actually insane. It's even tightened up since last year. I can't even have my boarding pass on my phone until I check in at the airport, print some sort of temporary boarding pass, then have the airport staff assign me a seat or whatever. Doing all these extra steps for no reason. Well, I guess not for no reason, but still, you know what I mean. While the Rockmores are still on track to go to Amsterdam, Kenan and Kel find out that the plane they're really on is going to Hollywood, California. And yeah, to some extent, they do kind of reuse this plot for Drake and Josh Go Hollywood, though I will say that movie is actually peak fiction. After they land, they think it's a good idea to call Chris, the manager of the store that Keenan works at, to tell him what's going on. They do this operating under the assumption or hope that his parents will, I guess, call Chris to ask if he's heard from Keenan. Yeah, that's not a very good plan, but it does end up working in their favor somehow anyway. So since they have a bunch of time to kill before they can catch their next flight to Amsterdam, and they are in Hollywood after all, they decide to explore it. And we see them do so via montage. They even end up at Universal Studios Hollywood as we see them ride the Jurassic Park coaster. Not gonna lie, this is actually pretty cool. It's rare when we see characters from sitcoms go to actual places and film there. Like in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty common because most ABC shows would have that one episode that went to Disney World, but again, those were usually only one episode occurrences. Speaking of which, I had an idea to make another one of these kinds of videos, but for some of those older shows and actually review the episodes where they all go to like Disney and stuff like that. Would you be interested in watching that? Please let me know in the comments and be honest, because this isn't scripted. I'm asking because I just now remembered that I wanted to do that. So please let me know. Throughout the episode, or at least until they landed in California, Kel has been talking about meeting actor David Alan Grier because he lives in the area. And as annoyed as Keenan would be every time he'd mention it, the both of them get pretty excited when they find out that he will actually be a guest on the Julie Brown show. And considering they are conveniently handing out free tickets, the boys decide to accept them with hopes of meeting the acclaimed star. But thanks to your average Kel shenanigans, they get their tickets ripped up and kicked out of line. So now they have no choice but to sneak in, if they still want to meet David Alan Grier at least. They find a window that gives them entrance into the studio, which actually paves the way for a couple other celebrity guest stars, like Bill Bellamy and teen pop sensation
Kel! That's Britney Spears! You're Britney Spears! Do you know who you are?
Britney Spears?
Brittany asks how they got in there, and Kel says that he's the hairdresser. So in classic Kel fashion, he decides to give her green highlights. But perhaps Kel was just a little ahead of his time with this one.
Did you say green highlights?
No, he said it's better to live in the good life.
The boys actually do end up meeting David Alan Grier though, as they sneak into his hairdresser room and hide in the shower once they hear him come in. And I mean, you can kind of guess what happens. Yeah, this is one of those scenes that would only happen on 90s Nickelodeon. I couldn't see like young Dylan doing this or anything. Or maybe they would, I don't know. I've never seen young Dylan. Maybe they'd be wilding on their show. They get chased by security and actually end up on the Julie Brown show, live in front of everyone.
Nice chatting with you, Miss Brown. Come on, Cal, we gotta go. David Alan Grier, can I get your autograph? Oh, I'm gonna give you an autograph right upside your lip.
The episode ends with Keenan and Kel on their next flight after being banned from Hollywood. They're relieved that all of this is over. But then...
Welcome aboard Flight 223, non-stop to Paris, France. We hope you enjoy your flight.
Yeah, this one is one of those episodes where if you like Keenan and Kel, then you'll probably like it. I do like Keenan and Kel, and so I do like this episode, but it's very different from the other episodes in this video, and that's because structurally, this show is very different than other Nick shows. Keenan and Kel was rarely about plot. It was just meant to put these characters in shenanigans and hijinks, so taking them to Hollywood makes sense. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do there. If you notice, they never really do wrap up the storyline. There's no scene where they meet up with their parents in Amsterdam and everything works out. Now, Keenan and Kel is kind of just about chaos all the time, which is why, although I love the show, it's not a show I'd want to binge watch because it does get really predictable. It's why I said several times, in classic Kel fashion or in classic sitcom fashion, because you know what you're going to get every time in this show. I, for one, find the whole Kel messes everything up because he's an idiot trope annoying. There are times where they write gags for Kel just for the sake of writing gags, some of which can be funny, but a lot of them can just be exhausting. Very few Keenan and Kel episodes actually have morals at the end or standard sitcom structure. It was made to imitate some of the earlier comedy duo acts like Abbott and Costello, who are mentioned in the show's intro. I don't think these episodes are great, but at the very least, it is a lot more focused than the True Jackson episode. Plus, this episode did have some really good moments and jokes, had guest stars to make it feel big, which is what a special is supposed to feel like, and the Hollywood setting is usually good for plots like this. It's fun, but probably one of the weaker episodes in this video. And there are better episodes of the show overall, but I think Keenan and Kel is just one of those cases of things that work better in small doses, like Tom and Jerry. Or TJ McConnell. I mean, he's great off the bench, but you're probably not going to want him playing like 35 minutes a game, you know?
Keep it here. We'll be back before you know it. Let's get back to more Nick.
All right, to rank these episodes from least to greatest, I'll probably say Drew Jackson, Kenan and Kel, iCarly. It's close between Big Time Rush and Victorious. I feel like you guys know I like Big Time Rush more than Victorious, but Freak to Freak Out is legitimately really good. I'm still surprised how much I enjoyed it. I will say I probably enjoyed the highs of the Big Time Rush episode more than the highs of the Victorious one. Plus, I like the BTR characters more, so I'm gonna put BTR first and Victorious in second. But the fact that I had to think about it for that long shows how much I did genuinely like Freak to Freak Out. I had a lot of fun with this episode. I'm hoping I can make more of these type of, I don't know, compilation / episode pack videos, whatever you want to call it. So if you want to see more of these, share this one with your friends, your family, your teachers, your workmates, your schoolmates, your bullies. And if you are a bully, show it to the kid that you're bullying. Like put an iPad or something in the locker you shoved him in. I wasn't playing about getting my watch time up. Jokes aside, check out my Patreon if you want to see content earlier than everyone else. Also subscribe to my second channel, simply titled Stalgia, for more of me. Of course, also feel free to subscribe to this channel and hit that like button if you're new. I am Mr. Nostalgia, and I'm out for now. Peace.